I would like to thank our ever wonderful and ever super non-Patreon supporter Scully for helping make this video possible. Thank you so much, Scully. Oh my god. So nom, Scully. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is a playthrough of a visual novel game that has got vampires and spooks and other numptings, so we really hope you enjoy it. If you do, remember to leave a like and comment. It helps out the video immeasurably. Also want to shout out our producer Alice for helping make this video possible too. Her links are on screen right now. Make sure you show Alice some love for being a mega nomkin, omega nomkin, the nomistkin. Oh my god. And we really hope you enjoy this video.
Oh my god, hello.
That's not our intro.
I know it's not. I wanted you to start our intro, but you didn't take the cue.
Hi, and welcome back to Krinx TV, where it's Halloween every single day.
Except when it's not.
If you're new here, I'm Minx.
And I'm Quizm.
And today we are playing Varney Lake. It is a point-and-click vampire-based horror game in the style of old adventure games. Let's check it out. Jimmy, 1, summer 1954. Oh wow, this is very old school. Can I not click? Okay. Okay, do you want to be Christine, please, baby?
Truth or dare?
The question takes you by surprise. I don't know why you asked him. He always makes the same choice. You gotta choose dare or truth. Which one, baby?
Pick.
We'll do truth. Truth! Truth? Sometimes you can't stand Doug. You know you only chose truth because of the way he provoked you. You look at Christine and try and smile. Christine bites her lip.
Last summer, is it true that Maggie wrote you a love letter just before she left?
Is that the question? Yes, it's true. Although you're relieved, you don't know what else to add. You look at Doug and notice his expression. Is he still in love with Maggie?
She's going back to her family this summer. Are you going to say anything to her?
That's another question, isn't it? Wow, is Christine really jealous? You walk a while in silence. Bit by bit, your smile fades. You feel like every step you don't open your mouth is another missed opportunity. And you know that when you go to sleep and run the conversation in your head, 1,000 things you could have said to her will come to you. You think you hear someone whistling. Are you imagining things now? You're still bothered about yesterday. Why didn't you wait for Doug and Christine to arrive? What did you want to prove? You try and think of something else. Like your mum says, what's done is done. You clear your throat. Dear listeners. Yeah, fuck yeah. We formally kick off a new summer in Varney Lake. Doug claps his hands and Christine wolf whistles. Christine is a year and 10 months older, but when you do the radio host voice, you don't feel the age gap as much. She's Doug's cousin, and this is the 4th summer you've spent together. She lives with just her mum. Her dad died in the Korean War. Doug is a few months younger than you. He's still 12, but turns 13 in a few weeks. He looks like he's 25. You know his father and his mother is Christine's aunts. Christine, Doug, and you are all only children. What had started as a joke ended up formalizing into the idea of a club. So make yourselves comfortable. You pause and point to Doug and Christine. The all-new adventures of the Only Child Club are about to begin! The club had been Doug's idea, but it was Christine who suggested trying to raise the money to buy the old Varney Lake Drive-In Theatre. They say you can see strange lights at night. Christine makes a noise with her mouth.
Who say?
Doug doesn't answer. It wouldn't be the headlights of ghosts' cars, would it? You laugh. Doug takes a deep breath and shakes his head from side to side. People died in that fire. Real people.
Can't you see his face, Jimmy? He's fucking with you.
Doug laughs and makes some faces at you. You let out a laugh and threaten to punch him in the stomach. You get to the old sycamore tree and try and erase the memory of that time when you chickened out of kissing Christine. Will you let me try it? That's the Jimmy I like. It had all started 2 summers ago. Doug had shown you a book he was obsessed with. He wouldn't tell you where he'd found it. The book provided lots of valuable information on games played with cards, matchsticks, and dice. That tin we keep the money in isn't going to be big enough, right? Doug opens up his backpack, takes out a deck of cards, and hands it to you. In the last few years, you three have raised enough money to get your hopes up.
Remember what we promised.
Christine tucks her hair behind her ear.
Before the youngest member of the group turns 18.
Doug beats his chest. That would be me.
We'll buy the drive-in.
The solitaire game I invented is going to make us much money. It's called Solitaire 10. You'll see why. Oh god, please don't make me play solitaire. The idea is to start from the cards you turn over and try and add cards to get to 10.
10, but isn't the jack worth 11?
Yes, the Jack 11, the Queen 12, and the King 13.
So?
Doug pauses before revealing the key to his creation. Depending on the color of the card you turn over, cards you choose from the board will either add or subtract to the total. Try as you might, you find it hard to follow Doug's instructions. Doug seems to realize this and signals you to wait. If the first card is red, red cards will add to the total, and black cards will subtract. And if it's black, black cards will be the ones that add, and red cards the ones that subtract.
And what happens if you can't reach 10?
You turn over a new card and continue with that one. Christine remains silent. She seems to be able to say something, but in the end she doesn't. And get this. Doug can't hide his excitement. If you reach 10 using all the 10 cards available, you shout Super 10! And win outright. Doug taps you on the shoulder. If you make a Super 10, I give you a dare. Well, just get started. If you run out of cards to turn over and can't make 10, we count the cards in the pot, and that's your final score. Alright. I don't really understand this, but sure.
Alright, now exit.
Okay. Stop playing. We probably could have done that from the beginning.
Yeah, we probably could have.
You can't focus on the game. Is it any good?
Cousin?
Now what? Christine seems to enjoy the situation.
There's an easy way to make Super 10.
No, how? Christine starts to explain something, but you stop paying attention. I thought that shirt said something else for a minute, I'm not gonna lie. You hear a whistling sound that makes your gut clench. You see Brandon in the distance and your heart starts to race. Oh, they're the bullies, baby! You can tell because their necks are thicker than their heads.
Yeah.
They're looking for you. Guys, I fucked up. Doug and Christine suddenly shut up. What do you mean you fucked up?
Jimmy?
You point to a spot on the horizon and your voice cracks. It's just that... Brandon. You pause and try and sound more confident. Yesterday we played dice and I fleeced him. Christine taps you on the shoulder and Doug throws his head in his hands. Fucking hell. They're gonna kill us!
Are 12-year-olds really saying all these shit? I mean, they probably are these days, but
This is 1954, though.
I know, it's weird. Come over here. And get down.
Christine is almost 2 years older than you, but there are times when you feel even younger next to her. You walk non-stop for more than half an hour. If Renner doesn't kill us, the heat will. You look at Doug. The cream he uses is invisible, but it's got a strong smell. You've gotten used to it, but it still hits your nostrils from time to time. Is it true what his mother says? Doug is the only boy you know who's allergic to the sun?
I can't believe you didn't wait for us yesterday.
I'll try and explain. Brandon wanted a rematch. I didn't think he'd figure out Doug's trick.
You thought. That's your problem. You think too much.
You keep quiet and look straight ahead. You can't bring yourself to hold Christine's gaze. Sorry to interrupt you, but we've reached the river. Little River is one of the main tributaries of Varney Lake. Is it safe? You take a deep breath and cross the old bridge at full speed. The distance makes you feel better, because even though you like her, Christine intimidates you. Come on, Doug! Don't be a pussy! Doug looks at Christine and Christine points to the bridge. Oh shit. Do you see what it said?
Yeah, go on.
Doug starts to cross. A board moves and he lets out a scream. Christine laughs. It's beautiful, but it makes you feel hollow. And that hollowness reminds you that Christine's been dating a boy from her hometown for several years, and that when summer is over, she'll be back with him. Over there, see?
Yeah. What is it?
No freaking idea. Should we go and see? Christine nods and Doug shrugs. You've never been to this part of Varney Lake before. How far have we walked already? Sorry.
Not far enough yet. Brandon is...
Christine seems to be looking for the right word.
bitter.
A son of a bitch, you think. You walk faster to try and keep some thoughts out of your head. Christine follows close behind you and Doug. Wow. A new headquarters for the club?
Gets my vote.
Is it abandoned?
Well, hopefully, otherwise you can't use it. Let's go and see.
You could sneak in. You all run to the entrance of the mill with a surprising energy. Although the door is open, the stench of confinement is intense. There's a guy in there.
Okay, so it's not abandoned, and don't go in there. Simple as that.
The sun. For a few seconds, no one says anything. Doug seems to remember something and starts going through his backpack. I'm gonna sneeze. Ow. My mum bought this allergy cream for me. The sun. Something about the man's desperation moves you. You grab Doug's hand and shake your head. You think of your grandfather. The day he died, you read him a letter from your grandmother. When you finished and you thought he'd fallen asleep, you got up carefully and walked to the door. But he was not asleep. Whispering, he asked you to close all the curtains. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Half an hour later, you found him dead in his bed. And you could swear he was smiling. He doesn't need any cream, Doug. He just wants a little darkness. The sun is coming in through 2 different windows. One high up, the other one full of broken glass. Let's search through the rubble?
Alright.
We'll grab the blanket. You lift the blanket and shake it a little. Let's move the old plough. Lean it against the high window. You leave the blanket on the floor. You ask Doug and Christine for help and you lift the old plough. You bring it up to the wall and prop it up, trying to block the light coming through the high window. Light is still coming in. Lean it against... Let's try that, I guess. Let's do better. You nod and you all move the plough again. Watch out for the glass. You move it closer to the window and gently rest it to block the light coming from outside. Excellent. Cover the windows? You think about asking Doug and Christine to stand in front of the lowest window, but it's full of glass and looks dangerous. As for the high window, there's no way to cover it without using some kind of tool. Let's grab the blanket again. Or grab the long reed. In the corner mill, you find some long... What is a long reed?
I don't know.
You grab one. Use the reed and blanket with the high window. Something occurs to you. It's the same technique your mum used to remove cobwebs from high ceilings, only she uses a broom and an old rag. You put the blanket over the reed and lean the reed against the wall. You try and block the light coming through the window without success. You need another reed to stretch the blanket and cover more surface area. Okay. You grab another reed. Use the second reed with the high window. You lean the second reed against the wall and tuck it underneath the blanket. Moving the 2 reeds carefully, you stretch the blanket to block all the light coming through the high window. Doug's canteen bounces off one of the walls and lands on the rubble with a thud. Why did he throw the canteen, or did the man hit it?
The man swiped it, maybe?
You're not even sure you saw the old man lashing out, and you wonder if your brain isn't filling in the blanks. Ugh. You help the old man up. Who is he? And why is he dressed like that? You turn your head towards the door. The old man raises his hand, his gaze fixed upon the animal.
We done fucked up.
None of you move a muscle. You think of Brandon laughing about how he and his brothers used to kill rabbits. You have to point the flashlight at them. They freeze like idiots. You approach slowly and a good hit does the rest. But what followed was no hit at all. Jesus Christ, this escalated!
It's a vampire. What did you expect was going to happen?
I mean, I thought it might be a bit more subtle about it and not kill a deer in front of them.
Like, he cares!
Look at Christine's face in the top right. The body of the deer lays limp at the feet of the vampire. It's noon, and the same sun you blocked from the old mill shines with all its intensity over Varney Lake.
You literally just have to step 2 feet out into the sun and you're fine.
What just happened? Is it over? Did we die? Oh, we're playing as someone else, Lou, in autumn 1981.
Oh, that's a jump.
Did he kill them? I can only imagine the fear you must have felt. Jimmy remained silent, staring at some point behind your head. After his detailed account about the first encounter with the vampire, he seemed somewhat changed, but you can't really say how. You look towards the door. Will she come as you promised? Jimmy sighs and looks down. What's he thinking about? Jimmy has not aged well.
Well, I mean, at least we can confirm Jimmy is a survivor of it, I guess.
Yeah. He doesn't know about it, but you've got your hands on the reports about his involvement in the Vietnam War through an acquaintance. Would you include any of that in your new book? Let's change the subject. Do you like the rain? You look out the window and think of the people running around looking for shelter. I was always afraid of the rain. Some images come to your mind. Images of cars floating, people walking through water almost waist high. But it wasn't your childhood that you'd come to talk about today. Another coffee? Jimmy shakes his head and you don't insist. You think of your editor, the words he said to you the last time you met. Your career wouldn't survive another failure. Jimmy settles back in his chair. You want to know what I'm afraid of, Lou? Who the fuck is that in the background that looks like a fucking private eye spying with holes cut in a newspaper?
I mean, it might be the vampire.
It might be. They're just watching. Look at it. It's like so conspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever forget a name? The director of a movie? Or the author of a book? When something like that happens to you, the mind becomes obsessed. It goes into a loop trying to remember the name even when you don't care anymore. The answer can appear at any moment. While you're watching TV, while you're washing the dishes. That stubbornness, that freedom of your mind to work behind the scenes, as if it were an independent entity. What's the limit, Lou? Does it have an end? You remain silent, feeling how distance between you and Jimmy grows with each passing second. For you, these questions were never rhetorical, and you know there are not many people prepared to listen to the answers. There it is. After talking on the phone, you had your doubts. But in the end, she came. You'd chosen this table so that Jimmy was sitting with his back to the door. You needed a surprise effect.
Jimmy?
Christine? Time seems to stand still and neither of them moves.
How long has it been?
27 years? Well, not that you were counting or anything, Jimmy, but...
Seriously, Jesus Christ. Wow.
27 years, 3 months and 6 days. You notice the way Jimmy seems to stumble over his words. You know that love is nothing more than an adaptive trick to perpetuate the species. But as with any other magic trick, knowing there's a trick is not enough to escape its effects. Come, let's sit at the table.
Jimmy. I can't believe it.
Jimmy smiles and you look away. There's something about the gesture that makes you uncomfortable. As if the muscles in his face have forgotten what a smile looks like.
I'm a little late, sorry.
Don't worry about it. We've just started. You tell Christine what you were talking about with Jimmy. That day in the summer of 1954, when you met the vampire.
Okay, I don't think Doug made it.
I guess we'll find out, but
Did
probably
you tell
not.
him about Doug, my cousin?
Jimmy nods and starts drumming his fingers on the table. Why is he drumming his fingers? Although you assume it's a nervous gesture, Jimmy's fingers seem to be asking something of Christine.
That summer was... I'm sorry. I thought I was ready.
You lean forward and take a deep breath. You know you can't miss this opportunity. You tell them what you can about your new book. At first, you find it hard to articulate some ideas. You're not selling a project to a publisher. Gradually, you find your tone and you're aware of the effect your words have on both Jimmy and Christine. You even talk about memory as a way of purging the present at a point where you're feeling particularly poetical. But you know that memory can be that, and much more. You don't feel comfortable. Why are you doing all this? Is what your editor thinks really so important? Your readers? Anyway, you manage to spur a change, and Christine seems determined to talk.
You have to understand that we were kids.
Kids, you find it interesting that Christine uses the same arguments as Jimmy.
That the summer was just beginning. Wow, I miss that feeling. The days seemed to go on forever, and we could do anything. Including, let our, cousin slash best friend, die to a vampire.
He might not have died. Okay, so Christine is from her perspective here. What do you think the odds are? You like this feeling. Almost as if you were floating, and everything weighed a little less. You needed this, and you know your mum did too. I'd say the same odds as shuffling a deck of cards, and getting an order that's already been dealt. In the history of all mankind. Wait a minute. How? I read somewhere that if you shuffle a deck of 52 cards, well, if you shuffle it very well 4 or 5 times, like this. Even though you're not looking at him, you can imagine Doug shuffling an invisible deck of cards. The odds of getting a card order someone already got are infinitely small. There's a slight breeze. You try and imagine what could be the possible configuration for you to see it. How small? It was like 1 in, I don't know, a huge number. I think it had like 67 zeros. Wow. Does a number that big even have a name? 4. You can't help but smile. Jimmy is nothing like your boyfriend. Your boyfriend is taller, bigger, more self-confident.
I think we're going to see it.
Neither one of them says anything, but you know they're waiting for you to go on. Doug, your little cousin, who has always idolized and feared you in equal measure. Jimmy, Doug's friend who is now your friend too, and you always knew he liked you.
Mark my words. This summer we're going to see Mount Rushmore in the sky.
I don't know, cousin. 67 is a lot of zeros.
The math is not important. It's enough that we've added it to the list.
Doug pulls your journal out the backpack and hands it to you, and you read the summer bucket list with veneration. Get 100 USD, catch an albino tarpon, see Mount Rushmore in the clouds. This was one of the club's oldest goals. Year after year, you aim to raise $100 to someday be able to buy the drive-in theater. Last year, you come close, and Jimmy thought all you needed was just a little more ruthlessness. Martin, Felix's father, was the only one who'd ever caught one. Such a feat had earned him his picture on the wall of the fisherman's bar. There was a time when everyone wanted to catch another albino tarpon, but time went by, and people started to distrust Martin's story. And the very existence of the albino tarpon? See Mount Rushmore in the clouds. Even though you understand the boys' doubts, you know they're looking at the problem in the wrong way. Finding shapes in the clouds speaks more about the people looking for them than the shapes themselves. The problem is getting 3 of you to agree on what you're seeing. And when that moment comes, when all 3 of you agree that you're seeing the same thing, you will have reached the most precious moment of your friendship. Let's check the Varney Lake map.
Okay, so that's what you meant. I was just like, what turn of phrase is this?
Yeah, it's weird.
But it's just like cloud gazing. Okay.
I was going to see if I can save, by the way. Yes. You look at the locations you marked on the map. We've got up Little River. Felix told you that before he was born, his parents had had a daughter. A daughter who would now be like you if it weren't for a strange disease that caused her death at a very young age. Maybe that's why Martin talked to you more than the rest. And maybe that's why he told you about the place where you should start looking for the albino tarpon. We've got Eagle Hill. Eagle Hill is located southwest from the lake. The perfect place to feel close to the sky and find different shapes in the clouds. Eagle Hill is one of the spots that couples older kids used to meet up at night, until the winter Barbara disappeared. Barbara lived year-round at Varney Lake. Eagle Hill was the last place she was seen alive, and with Brandon no less. To ruling out Brandon as a suspect, the police believed that Barbara had run away from Varney Lake. Rumours around town had it she didn't get along with her parents at all. and then the general market. The general market's almost as old as the first settlement in Varney Lake. You can buy almost anything, from bread or butter to batteries or cigarettes. But even more important, the general market is surrounded by a concrete playground where the kids from Varney Lake hang out a lot. And that playground is the ideal place to play Doug's games.
Shouldn't we mark the area the vampire told us about?
So the vampire just gave them info?
Okay. Well, I guess that's because we helped him out?
Maybe. Doug's right. The old cobblestone road stretches for miles. No one knows when it was built, or by whom. The vampire told you to follow it to the end, and to wait until it was 7 o'clock in the evening. Jimmy looks at Doug. I told my mum I'm sleeping at your house tonight.
I told mine I'm sleeping at yours.
Oh, I see what the vampire's doing. The vampire's just like, oh, you save me, so I'll give you a thing. But really, I'm just telling you to come there so you'll be my...
vampire?
It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be.
Doug and Jimmy laugh heartily. Their mothers are at each other's throats and not talking. It's the perfect alibi. What about you? Neither of them ask you anything. You know they do it out of respect. Your mum is usually so drunk at night that you don't have to make up an excuse to go out. You take a deep breath and get up. Summer is just beginning, and Varney Lake seems full of possibilities. Which one do you want to do?
Whichever one you want to do.
Let's go fishing.
How many fish does the old geezer want?
You'd like to say something, but you choose to keep quiet. Old geezer? Martin had lost his daughter. Christine?
9.
Jimmy lets out a whistle. If we bring him 9 fish, will he tell us where to catch the albino tarpon? You nod.
But how are we going to catch so many fish? Last time it was a disaster.
Doug's right. But what he doesn't take into account is that Martin gave you some tricks he learned over a lifetime of fishing. Fish. Lift rod. Oh no, it's a fishing minigame. You try and remember his words.
Don't laugh. Martin says that's a fish. We need to open our senses. Do you know what
Synthesia.
that word is? That word is the ability to perceive something with a different sense other than the one stimulated. Seeing a color when you hear a musical note, for example. Martin says that to be good fishermen, you have to develop that. When you catch something and try to pull it out of the water, there's going to be resistance. The fish is going to try to get loose. And what you have to do is imagine those movements in a specific color. Green for a weak movement, yellow for a normal one, and red for a sudden one. Is this trying to fucking explain the mechanics?
I don't know.
As long as you respond to the movements, will that compensate for the fish's attempts to escape? We're going to tire it out, and we're going to be able to get it out of the water.
Jimmy looks confused. After a few seconds, Doug starts laughing.
And you say my games are complicated.
You don't feel like arguing with your cousin. This is not a game. Fishing is an activity. And as with any activity, what really matters is to dedicate the necessary time to learn all its secrets. Oh. I don't really understand this at all, I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh my god.
Like, what is happening?
I think the fish is winning.
I think so too. But why is it winning? This is terrible.
I think we were supposed to try to aim to get the color that it was asking for.
Okay.
You lost it.
You didn't catch anything, but you just don't feel like fishing anymore. I don't care. I just care about the story.
What do you think he meant?
I think it was clear, especially after seeing how you were shaking in the mill.
Huh? Yeah, right. Wasn't it you who let out a scream when he bit the deer, huh?
You're a little bored of listening to them fight. It's usually something you enjoy, but there are times when they seem childish. You think about your boyfriend. What's he doing right now? Does he miss you? Do you miss him?
It's here. The end of the old road.
I sharpened a twig with a razor. It might work as a stake.
I bought a silver chain.
For a few seconds, no one says anything. What time is it? You look at the clock.
What clock? You mean a watch?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's almost 7.
Brandon didn't show up all day, did he? You don't think that...
Doug suddenly goes quiet.
Do you feel that?
What is that noise? You feel it too. A vibration. Some kind of electricity. And a burning smell. Are you fucking kidding me?
What the...
Come here, come on! Jimmy still surprises you. A few minutes ago he seemed... What word did you use? Childish? Now you don't quite know what to think. What do you think? Shall we go in? Let's go in. You nod your head. Jimmy takes a step forward, but Doug grabs him by the shoulder.
Shouldn't we wait until we're invited?
Hi. That's funny. I thought only my kind had to worry about that. Come with me. You look at Doug. Doug looks at Jimmy. And Jimmy looks at you. Jimmy strides forward and forces you to take a few quick steps so not to be left behind. Otherwise, just pictures of him, by the way, like 3 identical
Yeah.
pictures.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. You feel small in there. You've never seen a house with such high ceilings. There was a time when everything was different. You'd have been greeted by my servants, entertained until I decided to join you. What would you like to drink? Let's go with soda. Okay?
You probably won't have any. I'll have a soda.
Doug's eyes widen.
Me too.
Your cousin can't stay away from sugary drinks. What about a Bloody Mary? An awkward silence follows Jimmy's joke. Same as them. Maybe there's some in the pantry. I'll be back in a minute. He probably doesn't have any soda, right?
No, I doubt he has soda.
It'd just be like Mountain Dew.
No, it's not. Okay, Mountain Dew is soda.
I know. It didn't exist in 1954 probably, right, either, right?
I mean, I'm guessing? I don't know.
As soon as the door to the huge dining room closes, the three of you jump out your chairs. How old is this furniture?
Who are all these people?
Did you see the little bats on the chairs?
None of you can contain your amazement. After all, you were in a vampire's house.
Bloody Mary.
Doug lets out a hiss and you can't help but laugh.
I'm sure he's been thinking of vampire jokes all afternoon.
Jimmy doesn't say anything and your laughter doesn't last long. The silence is oppressive. You wonder if the walls of the dining room had ever heard the sound of people laughing. You unconsciously fondle with your bracelet, and you're thankful it's silver. Is that a thing? Vampires in silver?
To be perfectly honest, I don't remember anything about vampires in silver. I do remember vampires in steaks. I'm pretty sure silver is
Werewolves, right?
werewolves. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. The door opens and none of you say anything. You are lucky. I found carbonated beverages in one of the pantries. Duck and Jimmy uncork their bottles, and they don't like what they hear. A faint hissing sound, like a balloon quietly deflating.
Did you see the bottling date?
You try and speak softly so the vampire won't hear you. One of my maids always said, soda never expires. Did he hear you? How?
He's a fucking vampire!
Do vampires have superhuman hearing?
Yes!
I know you have a lot of questions. Brandon, for example. You won't have to worry about him anymore. Did you kill him? What do you think I am? Let's just say he's not going to be able to hurt anyone anymore. Still ominous as fuck. Listen carefully. You saved me, and now I owe you. What about the drive-in theater? The question takes you by surprise. Is the vampire also able to read your minds? Or is there a simpler explanation?
We like horror movies.
What is Doug doing? Why is he even telling him stuff? Give me a minute. I have something to show you. Something to show us? How many of the dozens of horror movies you've seen include a line just like that one? You wait for the door to close. God, like, these close-ups are weird. And you don't have to say anything. You try and hold back your laughter and breathe through your nose. Why did they run? I thought it was quite nice.
Why did we run?
Doug tries to catch his breath. What do you mean, why?
That old guy's a freak. We don't want to die in his haunted house.
You look at Jimmy and smile. Jimmy smiles back. It's just a second, and when you realize, you look down and pull your arm away.
That was mean. Listen, I understand he's a vampire, but don't be like, oh yeah, he's a freak. He's just a different species. I mean, he might be evil, but so far, he didn't actually do much of anything.
You don't really have any evidence he's evil either, really.
It's like, oh, he won't be able to hurt anyone anymore. Like, you don't know if he's dead. You just
You
didn't...
could have just told him not do it again and scared the shit out of him.
Oh my god.
You listen to them talking and you think about the best way to arrange the material for the book. On the one hand, you have the activities they did during the day, all the things that strengthened them as a group and made the story more human. On the other hand, the first night at the vampires, a dinner that didn't turn out as the vampire had probably expected. You adjusted your glasses, a habit almost as old as you. Why are you asking yourself all these questions? At what point had you lost confidence in your writing process? You'd like to write as you're used to, one chapter after the other, without worrying too much about the structure. Books are nothing more than an act of accumulation, you said in one of your professors you'd been commissioned to write at some point. Now nobody commissions anything from you. You'd had a hard time finding a publisher for the new book, and to think 10 years ago any non-fiction publisher in the country would have paid astronomical amounts to have you among their authors. Whew. Finally a good sign. The story of these three kids had made you lose track of time. Will the same thing happen to your future readers? You'll have to excuse me. I have to make a phone call. I don't think it'll take more than 10 minutes. There's a phone across the street. Jimmy and Christine nod. Before you leave, you reach into your pockets. Oh shit. Let's ask Christine for a quarter. I think she's got her shit together more. Where? Oh, sorry.
Let's see. I always have some spare change. In case something happens with my son.
Wow, she has a kid. It's only a second, but you notice the expression on Christine's face the moment she mentioned her son. It doesn't take a professional to notice the tension that still exists between these two. Thank you, Christine. I'll be back in 5 minutes. 10 at the most. You know they won't miss you too much. Jimmy and Christine have a lot to talk about. It's raining outside and you think about... Oh my god, it's it's definitely the vampire! Look at the green eye!
Definitely the vampire.
It's raining outside and you think about the concept of the pathetic fallacy. Was nature more in the commercial success your last books didn't achieve? Do you know what pathetic fallacy is?
No.
So it's when the weather mimics the mood in a storybook. So like, it's depressing, so it's raining. You know what I mean? Yeah. The funny thing is that you don't really care about money. Or rather, you're not interested in it as an end to itself. You just see it as a tool that allows you to continue your research. And do damage control. You made some decisions in your career that you regretted, but you always tried to make up for it. Your heart almost came out your mouth. Xantos, you motherfucker! You hang up the phone, the coin is trend. Do we know this vampire? I guess we do! I'm sorry. Did I scare you? You let the air out of your mouth. Although you've seen many things over the years, terrible things, unimaginable for some, you can't deny that Xantos has indeed frightened you. What happened? Why did you leave the diner? Xantos seems nervous, and he doesn't need to tell you anything for you to know what's wrong with him. Go. But 10 minutes tops. You go back to the booth and dial Lee's number.
I guess he's hungry.
Yeah. Lee is Xantos' adopted father, and your friend, you might say. You feel responsible for everything that happened to him. After all, Lee was one of the main characters in your book about the Mothmen, the 1966 meteor shower. The phone rings. Think about the night. Let's get some backstory. Since that fateful night in late November 1966, Lee could feel the effects of every possible present at once. It's hard for you to imagine something like that. To feel each and every possible present as if they had happened. What impact would this have on a person? It was not a superpower, that much is clear. It was a curse. Lee's relationship with Victoria, whom he had married 3 months before their daughter was born, had deteriorated in recent years. Feeling all those presents where Victoria had lied to him, insulted him, cheated on him, belittled him, or worse, had been too much for Lee. Oh, that sounds awful.
Okay, so it's not even that she did any of it. It's that he experienced all the possibilities of that happening?
I guess so, yeah. And that was why he'd moved to this end of the country and only had you as his number. Lou. Can you be Lee, please? My voice is dying a bit. How many presents will there be where it's not you at the other end of the phone, but someone else? Could these presents be quantified, enumerated for analysis? You shake your head, trying to concentrate on the conversation, and to stop thinking about all the possible ramifications that every act, no matter how small, may have. Did you think I'd forgotten? Lee laughs, and starts telling you about the last stories he read. Lee is a fan of crime fiction. You had given him several dozen issues of the Ellery Queen Mystery magazine, and you call him religiously for him to tell you what happened in the stories he liked the most. Lee needs to talk. He needs to be in contact with another human being. It was the least you could do after ruining his life.
What about my son? Is he learning anything?
You notice his voice breaks when he mentions Xantos. You tell him that he is, that he's helping you observe the people you're interviewing. As if he had been summoned, you see Xantos walking across the street. You cover the phone with your hand and call him. You say Jimmy's name and make a gesture for Xantos to watch him. Xantos nods and you go back to talking to Lee. I don't want to take anything for you granted this time. Lee doesn't respond, but you think you know what he's thinking.
No. Thank you.
Before you can say anything, he hangs up. You hold your head and take a deep breath. You'd screwed him up and he thanks you. You think about the new book. The biography of a very special vampire. Will they be okay when they find out? When they know the whole truth? Christine has a family, but Jimmy... You know how much he suffered. It's impossible to foresee how he might react. But isn't there a possible present for any outcome? No. No! The end is always one, and only one. And you have to learn to live with that.
I'm confused. Do you have magical powers where when you write about someone it fucks something up?
I have no idea.
I don't understand.
We're back in summer 1954 anyway. You think you exist, and therefore you do.
This is nice, isn't it?
But you'd rather not think, and exist without knowing it.
So, what are we doing today?
Let's go to Eagle Hill. It sounded more interesting than the others.
Do you remember when you asked how to play?
Christine smiles and you pretend to be angry. There aren't too many rules. When you think the clouds form something, you point to the sky and tell the others. Find shapes in the clouds. Point to a specific shape in the clouds. What the fuck is a muai? What the fuck is this?
I mean, it would help if we could actually see. Is this it?
That's a heart.
Yes, yes!
Christine is obsessed with Mount Rushmore. You don't care that much. Looking for Mount Rushmore in the sky is just another excuse to spend more time with her.
And...
Maybe if we come at another time. After it rains with the sky clearing.
We'll do one more. Which one's it going to be this time?
We have to wait and see.
It's a rabbit.
I think he's going to be a rabbit, but I think we have to wait.
Yeah, until the head connects.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, Bebe, we actually played a minigame successfully. Because it was so
No.
simple, even we couldn't fail.
There we go.
Yes.
We're done now.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. You have to see it.
It's hard to compete with Christine. House of Wax, Invaders from Mars, The Thing from Another World. It doesn't matter what horrible movie it is. She's watched them all.
That's not fair. Your boyfriend works at the movie theater.
There he is again. Christine's boyfriend. Is it really necessary to mention him so much?
Yes.
You take a deep breath and look up at the sky. The shape of the truck's hood fits perfectly against your back. And you force yourself to smile. Toad season, Doug? Doug raises his eyebrows and starts making noises with his mouth. What the fuck? He sounds like Mario going down a pipe. You can't contain your laughter.
You're disgusting.
Doug laughs too, with a hoarse laughter almost as if he were choking. You remember that afternoon of last summer very well. Doug had gotten a vinyl record he was obsessed with. You'd seldom seen him like that, and how he'd insisted you to listen to it. The record was part of a collection documenting the sounds of the world, everything from distant cultures to meteorological phenomena. Doug wasn't particularly interested in the collection, but this record, it was special. It included recordings of toads singing in the middle of mating season.
Could you please stop?
Christine's anger only makes you laugh harder. Doug finally stops imitating the toads. The laughter gradually fades away and ends up turning into a sustained sigh. You look at your friend and think about what he confessed to you that afternoon. It was sad, but neither of you had older siblings, or a father figure to lean on. That vinyl record with its songs of toads during mating season was the closest thing Doug had to a Playboy. Oh no.
What's that? On that branch.
It's a bat.
You see?
A bat? You're right.
Where?
The bat soars into the air with a loud screech.
Come here. We know it's you.
How long have you been there? You're not following us, are you?
I told you. I'm indebted to you.
See? He's a freak!
Wait a minute. Brandon stopped bothering us, right?
So... are we good? The vampire nods. You can't deny that his presence at the drive-in bothers you a little. The drive-in is something for the three of you. The only child's club. The only child's club? The question takes you by surprise. Wasn't that what Christine had said? That the vampire could read your minds? I'm an only child too. Or at least that's what I thought. There's something in his eyes that forces you to pay attention. A sadness that you can relate to. And considering Doug and Christine's silence, you could swear they're feeling something similar. How did he become a vampire? Let's ask him that. How does someone turn into a vampire? He puts his hand on his jugular and remains silent. Is he really an only child? The vampire tells you that he believes so for most of his life, raised by a strong mother and an older gentleman. But after the conversation, he had discovered that he was born on the other side of the Atlantic, and that he had a twin brother. However, his original family had given him to a couple who couldn't have children, and who were about to emigrate to the United States. Isn't that tragic? Two brothers separated at birth, and turned two only childs. What's his real name? The vampire says his name is not important, but that you can call him List. So this isn't the same one, probably. Maybe it's his brother. List. The vampire just told you to call him List. After listening to him, you can't deny he'd suffered just as much as the three of you. What will the others say? Will they give List a chance to prove himself as a new member of the club? I don't know, because we're going to go back to the present day, it looks like. Oh, Xantos we're playing as now. I have no idea what's happening. Lou calls it goat Tourette's. You know he doesn't mean it in a bad way. As well as being your godfather, Lou is a writer, and sometimes writers use words like shortcuts. Your mum didn't like it when Lou said goat Tourette's. You'd read about Tourette's, and you understood the comparison. Doctors call the tension in muscle group that the individual with Tourette's relieves with motor tics the predominatory urge. Your case is different. The urgency is not focused on a specific muscle group, but rather in the whole of your being. With every kick, every jump, and every blow, you feel alive, as if all of a sudden the veil were pulled back. Goat Tourette's is what allows you to bear being unable to show yourself to the world as you really are. As you were when your parents and your godfather found you that night in 1966. Goat Tourette's is the way you found to forgive yourself, at least for a little while. Oh, this is gonna be hard as fuck. This is so fast!
You literally have to dance.
We did it.
Oh, we're seriously a fucking goat!
Yeah? The spasmodic movements release the accumulated tension. For a moment you feel the veil being lifted. I am Xantos, son of Victoria and Lee, godson of Lu. I got the trophy, behold the goat boy. And I am a goat man. You breathe a sigh of relief, but you know the sensation won't last long and you still have things to do. You wonder if Lu made the right choice in selecting you for the job. Xantos, private detective. You hope to one day have your own sign in the door of an office downtown. But that's still a long way off. You nod to Lu and walk back into the Nyack Cafe.
Okay, so you were right. Weird fucking...
Something completely different.
No, I mean, he is a private eye. He just is a goat private eye, not a vampire private eye.
That's true. You're just starting. And for now, your tasks are pretty simple. Lou asked you to watch Jimmy and Christine during the interview, and to follow Jimmy after the meeting. Your godfather had told you that after telling them the truth, anything could happen. And that you had to be very careful with the consequences of their actions. So, Lee's going to drop a bombshell on these two about something that we don't know yet. Lou, yeah, sorry. And you. Wasn't that what you were? A consequence of their actions? We're going back to 1954 again. Christine. The raindrops pound the roof, and you have to speak loudly to be able to hear each other. It's really coming down out there. Why does it feel the need to talk all the time? When you have nothing to say, you just stay quiet. It's like me.
Yeah, you tend to just...
Fill in air.
Ba 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 ba.
Wah, bah, bah, bah. It's really coming down out there. And why describe what everyone can already see? How much longer will it rain? Is it worth waiting to see if it stops?
Do you have the matches, Doug?
Doug shrugs.
I had to give them all to my mom. If you'd shown a little more interest when I wanted to show you the puzzles, maybe I would have kept them.
You stretch a bit.
Do we go back then?
Both of them nod. Jimmy seems like he's gone to say something else, but ultimately changes his mind. Another of his astute observations? Your legs dangle from the platform. A gentle breeze caresses your arms, and you sigh. You wonder what you'll remember of all this 10 years from now. And in 20? In 25?
Let me think a little.
You look at your cousin. Since the night you started hanging out with the vampire at the drive-in, the dynamics of the Only Child's Club have changed. Doug spends most of his time with Liz. And now that you have more space for just the two of you, Jimmy seems to have closed in on himself. Let's talk about your boyfriend.
No, come on. Oh, come on!
You gotta read it.
My boyfriend got me Rico Browning's autograph.
Hmm?
An autograph from the guy who played the creature from the Black Lagoon.
He's not gonna say anything? Can't he at least be glad for you? Let's talk about Liz.
Do you think what Liz said about the games is true?
I'm sorry, what? Jimmy raises his shoulders. He looks like he wants to say something, but regrets it.
I don't know if it's true, but I think it makes sense. I always wondered about the origins of certain board games. To think they're an advanced society's experiment to study us. Seems more credible than the idea that a random person could have designed something like chess.
This is so weird.
It's because Jimmy ain't fucking saying shit!
He is, he's being weird, right?
I like my cousin's games, but I don't know. I always feel there's something missing.
You regret what you said as soon as the words leave your mouth. Out of everything you could have said about Doug, why choose that? Something like what?
The 10 solitaire, for example.
The solitaire?
There's a trick to make a Super 10 with 0 effort.
Jimmy opens his eyes wide.
The first thing you have to do is add the cards of each color on the board. Let's suppose that the black cards add up to 31 and the red comes to 38. Take 38 from 31 and you're left with 7. 7 in favor of red. Once you know that, the only thing left to do is flip the cards from the deck until you get a red 3. And when that happens, you put it all down. The red 3 plus the 38 red cards on the table add up to 41. 41 minus 31, of all the black ones, 10.
Wow. We said it in sync, buddy. Why don't you tell Jimmy about the trick? Shouldn't you have talked to Doug first? Given him a chance to improve the solitaire? You don't want to admit it, but finding mistakes in your cousin's creations gives you a certain confidence.
So you're just a bitch.
Kind of, yeah. It's not just the satisfaction of finding someone else's mistakes, it's something else. Something you don't want to think about too much.
You're a bitch! You enjoy seeing that you're superior to other people. You're a bitch.
Who the fuck is Maggie?
The Maggie is the one that Doug was in love with but wrote a love letter to Jimmy.
Oh, shit.
Did you talk to Maggie? If you talk to Maggie...
Jimmy looks at you for a few seconds and finally looks down. She called by to give my mum something. That's it. Because that's it annoys you. As if Jimmy thinks he owes you an explanation. Fuck. Maiden 4. Forced. They finally finished the game. You didn't know how much more you could take. You stand up and smooth out your pants. Doug starts picking up the pieces. One more?
No, that's enough for today. Why don't you tell us one of your stories?
Liz nods and you get ready to listen. What story would you like to hear? We got Godfrey the Glue Maker, Gilbert the Lumberjack, or Milo the Thief. You can choose this one.
You could choose. You're
No,
the one playing.
You gotta choose. Please?
For me?
How about we do the lumberjack?
The Lumberjack. I'll tell you the story of Gilbert the Lumberjack. Gilbert wielded the axe as few others could. He lived a nomadic life dedicated exclusively to work. Carpenters and builders adored him. One day, while chopping at a very thick oak tree, Gilbert heard a groan. He pressed his ear to the trunk. Could the tree be complaining? He removed the axe from the trunk and swung it again. There was no doubt there was a groan again. Confused, he dropped the axe and paused to think for a few minutes. Gilbert didn't particularly like his job, but it was the only thing he knew how to do. He had estimated that if he kept doing it for 5 more years, he could retire and live in one of the small towns he'd passed by. Determined to follow through with his plans, he picked up the axe and ignored the groans of the oak tree. Look at that face! But from that day on, Gilbert began to hear the sobs of all the trees he felled. Oaks, pines, firs, beeches, they all suffered under the lumberjack's axe. Though it wasn't easy for him, Gilbert learned to ignore the whining. It was the only way you could keep working. 5 years later, Gilbert retired. He settled in a village and soon after met Estrid, whom he married. Estrid was slender and frail-looking. Gilbert loved her deeply. Before long, the young woman contracted an illness that left her bedridden. She lay on her bed all day long, and Gilbert brought her tea and sang to her. Estrid grew weaker every day until one afternoon an attack of withering pain foretold her end. The woman kept writhing and crying and moaning loudly. Meanwhile, Gilbert was in the courtyard of the house, and though he could hear her, he kept carving, without even blinking, the figures of 2 lovers melting in a kiss on a sprig of oak. You try to imagine Estrid's last hours, and you feel sick. Do you want another story?
Yeah, just go through all of them.
Alright, we'll do Godfrey. This is the story of Godfrey the Glue Maker. Godfrey was a glue maker. He made glue from horse bones and hooves. He wasn't the best animal glue in the region, but he'd been very lucky. He sold the glue to a famous bookbinder in town. However, whilst he built a very lucrative business, Godfrey has not been able to find love. He was a romantic, a true believer in the concept of the other half. One afternoon, crouched over the dead body of a young foal he bought from a widow, he had an idea. After shaking the dirt off, the animal had fallen off a cliff and crushed its owner. He cut off the horse's tail with a big pair of scissors, stood up and approached a mirror. He raised the horse's tail behind his dead head and he liked what he saw. It was a new Godfrey, Younger, healthier, even with long, silky hair. It didn't take much to make up his mind. Didn't he make animal glue for a living? A few weeks later, and with new confidence, Godfrey met the beautiful Isolde, a young woman who ended up being his wife and whom he loved fervently. One day, while Godfrey was in his workshop working on a hanging carcass, Isolde approached him from behind. She was smiling from ear to ear as she had great news to give her husband. But the moment she touched his back, something strange happened. Godfrey's shoulders dislocated with a wet crack, and both arms shot back as if powered by strong pistons. The hit landed on her chest. Godfrey turned around and saw Isolde on the floor, her eyes wide open. He ran to her, and to his horror found that she was dead. He burst into tears, his face resting on Isolde's chest. Godfrey cried for a long time, unable to move. And his tears moistened the ends of the horse's tail he glued to his head almost a year ago. Wow. You look at Doug. Doug looks at you and nods. That was a lovely story.
So, he put,
he put the horse's tail on his thing and it kicked her like a horse would, was the implication, and killed her.
So weird. Okay, Milo the thief.
Milo the thief. Milo was on the run. He'd robbed a shopkeeper and was chased to the entrance of the forest. The chase didn't stop there. An hour later, when the sun finally set, Milo was sure he wouldn't be caught. Without letting up pace, he always stretching his arms forward to avoid hitting a tree, Milo continued on into the darkness of the forest. After walking for a while, the thief ran into a jagged wall, and almost at the same time he heard a growl closer than he would have liked. Surely he couldn't have managed to escape from the soldiers only to end up being eaten by a bear. With his hand resting on the wall, he looked for a foothold so he could climb up. He was shaken, but the effort was worth it. The thief found the entrance to a small cave through which the animal would not fit. He crawled through the darkness, and too exhausted to do anything else, he fell asleep. Milo awoke with the first light of morning. He looked inside and noticed the cave was deeper than he thought the night before. He squatted down and moved forward until he reached a gallery where he could finally stretch out. He couldn't believe his luck. It was the perfect hiding place. Not just from the bear, but from the town authorities. He looked around and noticed a group of mushrooms that had grown on a kind of mound. He approached and plucked one. His belly was rumbling. Without thinking too much, he took a bite. He was surprised by his own recklessness, but it tasted so good. He took a second bite, and his legs went slack. He fell to the ground, writhing in pain. He tried to crawl to the exit to call for help, but only managed to let out a weak whimper. At first he felt his body burning, but then he lost all sensation. He was completely paralyzed by the toxins. Unable to even express horror on his face, Milo watched as the mound of earth seemed to move. It was not dirt, but a strange creature with colorful mushrooms growing on its back. The creature advanced a few feet towards Milo and began to writhe, giving birth to a dozen translucent skinned, shapeless offspring that began to crawl, opening and closing their mouths. And Milo, unable even to close his eyes or move his head to the other side, watched the hideous creatures slowly swell as they ate him alive. He didn't quite know what to think. Was there a teaching to Milo's story? Thou shalt not steal? Curiosity killed the cat? Personally, you like the stories where the line between good and evil is a little bit fuzzier. One more? No.
It's getting late.
Doug asks for one more and looks at Jimmy. Christina's right. Doug starts croaking like a toad, and you pretend not to hear him.
I mean, so far this vampire seems pretty chill, to be
Yeah, I like
honest. I don't know if it's gonna be a big, like, switcheroo. Like, oh yeah, he was chill and then he tried to eat us at the end of summer or something. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Lest enjoyed telling these stories.
Who the fuck are these people just listening?
There was something about the way he moved his hands, the way he projected his voice, and his shadow. It looked like, I don't know, like he could control the darkness around him.
Christine shifts in a chair.
But his most striking feature were his eyes. Yeah. There was something about the way he looked at you that took you to the very heart of his stories.
Is it you? The couple looked at you in silence. They expect you to say something. When was the last time something like this happened? If that's me? The old couple smile. and something snaps inside you. You're telling me you're not that person. You're not the author of... Please, I'm busy. Oh, I see they're fans. You hear the old man tut as they walk away. He's holding a copy of a book you obviously recognize. I just got the trophy, jerk. I didn't know! Risen by Falling Stars, with the subtitle your editor added and you never really liked. The Secret Story of the Cryptid Wars. You even remember the text on the dust jacket. Risen by Falling Stars by Lou Hill features exclusive first-person reports on the last battle of the Cryptid Wars in 1966. Risen by Falling Stars has sold more than 100,000 copies. Christine coughs and you apologize. The smiles of the old couple stick with you. Where were those smiles when you released your last book and couldn't sell the minimum required by the publisher? Where were we? Varney Lake. You know that if you lived here, it wouldn't be the same. That all of this has value because it has an end. Christine takes out her notebook. Although you did lots of things, you couldn't achieve anything on the summer bucket list. But it doesn't matter. You see your friends smile, and you can't help but copy them. You'd like to tell them how much you love them, but you feel embarrassed. Will you be brave tonight? I guess this is the last night of the summer. You don't understand. Why is it so hard to talk to her? But maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you never really had the choice. Like every year, all the kids gather on the beach of the lake to watch the fireworks. The explosions of colour in the sky mark the end of the summer. Even though you try and smile, you find it hard to hide the pit you've been feeling in your stomach for the last few days. The simple realization that nothing lasts forever. How many more summers like this one will you have?
Do you hear that?
Neither of you says anything. Neither one of you ever says anything.
It's the toads.
Christine grimaces and looks at you. Doug taps you on the shoulder. Doug bursts into laughter.
Yes, Jimmy, croak. I've just seen Maggie, so go on, croak like a horny toad.
Doug looks down. What's wrong with Christine? She knows her cousin is in love with Maggie. Why would she say something like that? Doesn't she talk to you all the time about her boyfriend? Doug kicks a rock. You want to say something, but you see Brandon. See, he's fine. He looks... Oh no. Oh no! He looks lost. You remember end of summer parties of the past. How most kids avoided the place where Brandon and his gang hung out. That Brandon everyone was afraid of. What had Liz done to him to leave him like that does not look good.
You know what? I don't give a shit.
Who the fuck is Steve?
Look who we have here.
The guys surround Brandon, and Brandon doesn't seem to understand what's about to happen. Bert, who Brandon once pushed out of a moving car. Tommy, from whom Brandon had stolen a slinky just to wrap it around his leg, leaving him with marks that, according to the doctor who treated him, were permanent. Steve, whom Brandon had lifted by the collar of his shirt with one hand and his underpants with the other, to use him as if he were a battering ram to take down his friends while the rest of the gang exploded with laughter.
And your friends?
Everyone had been talking about it. Without violent and abusive Brandon, the boys were no longer afraid of them, and none of the other members of the gang would dare to come to the fireworks. But what about Brandon? Why had he come? Everything happens too fast, and the moment he hits the ground, everyone starts kicking him.
Stop, please!
You'll see, motherfucker. Do you like that, you son of a bitch? Each explosion illuminates Brandon's terrified face from a different angle. This took a dark turn, didn't it? Look at the big baby crying. Should we call Mommy? Oh, right. She'd rather stick her head in the oven than watch you grow up. When the smoke dissipates, Brandon takes a few steps back. Look. The guys point at him, laughing. He pissed his pants! Come on, let's get closer to the fireworks. He won't bother anyone anymore. Someone spit on him before walking away. Others kick him. None of you move. Brandon looks at you, and you look down at the floor, not quite knowing what to feel. Fireworks mark the end of the summer, and the beginning of something that haunts you to this very day.
Alright, here's the thing. I know we're supposed to feel all just like, oh no, isn't this horrible and horrific and whatever. He wouldn't have a gang of people beating the shit out of him if he had not, in the first place, beat the shit out of them. So if anything, this should just teach you not to be a dickhead to other people, and you won't have people being a dickhead to you when you're in a vulnerable spot. I'm sorry, this type of shit really annoys me. Is it right to have them be abusive to him? No, it's not. But was there a explanation for why it happened? Yes.
I get what you mean, for sure.
You know? Just like, I don't feel sorry for Brandon because apparently he was super fucking violent and abusive. So, they're being violent and abusive, and I guess these kids might have been a violent and abusive beforehand, but we'll never know, because the cycle started in the first place, and it will just perpetuate itself. So maybe just teach the children not to be violent and abusive, just in general.
That's fair. Christine. Why, Christine? Why didn't we do anything?
Because you couldn't have, one, known, two, it wasn't your fucking responsibility! It wasn't your fucking responsibility!
We couldn't possibly imagine what was going to happen. Let's do that. We couldn't know, it's true. But we just watched Christine. Doug, Christine. That vengeful son of a bitch Brandon killed him. Killed him! Wait, what? Brandon killed Doug?
I don't understand the logic.
Let's see what happens. Let's see. If we'd intervened that night at the beach, if we'd stopped them... No. It's not fair. There was nothing you could have done. Or at least nothing that could have changed your cousin's destiny. Lou clears his throat, and the noise brings you back to the present. There's no easy way to put it, so I'm gonna say it. Doug, your cousin, your friend, who everyone thought was dead in the months following that summer of 1954... He's alive! What? Yeah, and I can prove it. But, Brandon, your head starts spinning. Just listen to me, it won't take long. I'm gonna call it now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Doug died in an accident, right? But the vampire brings him back.
That would make sense.
This newspaper is from December 9th, 1954. Your cousin disappeared on December 1st. Every newspaper tells more or less the same story. Watching from a window, an eyewitness saw a big boy savagely beating a smaller one. He went inside to call the police. And when he came back, both boys were gone. A few days later, the witness recognized Doug's face on the missing posters put up by his family. It was the same boy the big guy had beaten ferociously. When the police showed him some pictures, he also recognized Brandon, the prime suspect in the investigation after everything that happened that summer at Varney Lake, and whom the police had been unable to question because he was missing. Everyone drew the obvious conclusion. Brandon was behind Doug's disappearance. But the newspapers also mention a second witness in passing. Benjamin Vanstone, an addict who lived on the streets. The police took his testimony. However, his statement was dismissed on the assumption it was some kind of hallucination. Vanstone has stated the winged figure appeared above the big boy, and that with one swipe it had cut off his head. Holy shit!
Again, am I supposed to feel fucking sorry for Brandon?
No.
I'm gonna be interested to see what people in the comments think.
Yeah.
But personally, I understand Brandon's a kid, but at the same time, why are you beating up fucking Doug? It's not Doug that caused all of those fucking people to attack you on the beach. It was your own fucking actions that led to you being assaulted on the beach. It's not a case of just like you looked a bit different and you were bullied. It's a case of you were assaulting other people relentlessly and they fucking attacked you. I mean, you're all terrible people, but like every single one of you, and not the three groups. So far, these three kids that we have been like with don't seem to actually be like violent or abusive towards anyone. But all of the people involved in that attack, Brandon and Steve and whatever the fuck those other two were, those all seem to be just as violent as each other. So, you know what? I don't feel sorry that the vampire came and just chopped off Brandon's head because he was beating Doug to death.
I will say, I feel like the tone of this is all over the place a bit. Like, I don't,
It is. It really is.
like a bit weird, actually. And with that one swipe, he cut off his head. The smaller boy was dying. The figure held him in their arms and stuck his fangs in his neck. See, I told you. At that point, Vanstone got scared, hid in an alley, and didn't come out for a few hours. A few days later, he showed up to testify. He couldn't stand the nightmares anymore. Nobody believed him. You understand what this means, right? Liz turned Doug into a vampire. Lou nods. No, it can't be. Jimmy speaks softly with a broken voice. You look at him with an overwhelming desire to hug him. And you? What do you feel? Your cousin Doug, he's alive. And what about Brandon? What had Liz done with Brandon's body? Didn't this family deserve to know what happened to him?
No.
No.
Well, I guess.
Yes, the family does.
I guess the family does, but Brandon's a piece of shit, and it's
He
just
still
like
killed Doug. He's a murderer, literally.
he literally is. This big hulking mass was beating this. Like I said, I was kind of exaggerating at first, but now we have confirmation. No, this kid was literally gonna die because this giant boy was off the fucking deep end. And yeah, no, come on. Unless we see evidence later that it was, like, more sinister. At this point in the story, I'm just like, this vampire has just seemed super chill. And he made a connection with Doug, as we already saw. And, like, saved his fucking life. But probably couldn't just come out and say, hey, everyone, it's fine. He's just a vampire now.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. Does it matter if the story Lou just told you was true? Brandon had tried to kill your cousin. Brandon, never mind that he was your first kiss. Wait, what? Brandon was a son of a bitch! You take a deep breath. How many years has it been? No, Doug would have told us. Look, I think took this picture a few weeks ago. It's for the book I'm writing. A biography about Doug. The vampire kid.
Oh, is Doug gonna be bitter now because he's been stuck in the body of a kid forever?
Maybe. Well, I guess we'll find out.
I hope not. It really annoys me when that happens.
Okay, so Jimmy, this is later on now, after these events. Because that was summer, this is autumn 1981.
Okay.
Oh no, this is just the same thing, it's just after. Shit, I'm wrong.
I think you just got confused.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
The seconds pass. Raindrops clatter relentlessly on the sidewalk with the perseverance of a ruminative thought. Why didn't Doug ever contact you in all these years?
Where is he now, right?
Lou had told you he didn't know the current whereabouts of your friend, the vampire kid, and that he'd let you know as soon as he had more information.
Now we have to wait. Listen, are you okay? Can I give you a ride somewhere?
Christine repeats the question. No.
Come here. I'll take you home.
No thanks. I need to walk.
Jimmy?
You make an effort to look her in the eyes. Christine doesn't say anything else. You give her a kiss on the cheek, and you walk away in the rain. Doug is alive. Why didn't he ever call his mother? Does he know how his family suffered? How you suffered? You still remember the day Christine called you to tell you about it. Christine was sure that they were going to find him, that Doug was fine, but you suspected the worst. Senior year of high school was one of the hardest. All you could think about were Doug's plans. It seemed so unfair that someone had taken away his future. Far from diminishing, the pain grew as the years went by. This ruined your life!
Okay, I gotta say this, though. I understand that a friend's death can fuck you up. But if you're gonna go out here being like, how could you have done this to me? You ruined my life. You have control to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if it's like, this is gonna sound really cold, and I understand when you're friends with someone, you know, their death is gonna affect you very, very, very deeply, right? However, I will say, it's not like your fucking child died. You know?
No.
Does that make sense? Like, it's your friend. And you're gonna tell me that your life spiraled out of control from such a young age. And you're gonna... I just hope you don't start blaming Doug for being a vampire. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that thinks like this, but it's just like, come on, dude. Come on. Okay.
Alcohol helped you sometimes. It made you forget. You never stopped visiting your friend's mother, even though she didn't lose hope. She suddenly flew into fits of hysteria that tore you apart. You think about what Lou told you, about the witness who had seen the posters papering the whole town. As soon as you heard about its disappearance, you travelled to join the search. Doug lived in the same town as Brandon. How could you not see that something like this would happen? That Brandon would seek revenge? So much pain. The alcohol, the street fights, the army. Vietnam, the shootings, the smell of the jungle, the return to the country, the desire to leave everything. The night sleeping on the streets, the fights in the shelter. And now a guy like Lou comes along and tells you that Doug is alive? Who the fuck does he think he is? You try and calm down. You know someone is following you. It's the goat, right?
Yeah, it's the goat. It's the goat, and it's not fucking Doug's fault. He's a fucking vampire. Also, how would he be able to tell his mother?
Mm-hmm.
Come on now.
I'm a vampire, lol.
I'm a vampire. Like, I understand being sulky because he didn't contact you because you already knew vampires were a thing. But, like, come on.
I feel the goat boy's following him, by the way, to keep because he thinks he might kill himself or something.
I'm wondering if there's just, we still have this question about, like, oh, the consequences of your actions and that other guy seeing all the possible futures. But I don't know if that has something to do with the Mothman, because I think that's the Mothman's stick.
I think this is set in a universe. This isn't the first game. Mm-hmm. We might go back and play the others at some point if we like this enough. But like this just came out recently, so I thought we'd check it out. But there are others that they're like stories set in the same sort of cryptid-based universe.
Okay.
They have one about the Mothman, for example.
All right.
It's the same person who was watching you in the bar, hiding behind a newspaper. It's not the first time you've been followed since you came back from Vietnam. And you know exactly what you have to do to lose them. After a while, you get out the van and wander aimlessly, or at least that's what you think you're doing. The rain follows your every move. You hurry, your pace driven by a force you can't define. A certain attraction. The deer, you suddenly think. What the fuck? This was something you and Doug used to talk about. In one of his magazines, Doug had read about a doctor who claimed there were people who had a hard time seeing what they were thinking. People who were thinking about an apple and who couldn't see it in their head. You didn't see the apple, but you could swear that for a second you could see the deer exactly as it had been back in 54.
I actually, little side thingy. Sorry we're doing so many side things. Well, before it was related to the story, so I shouldn't apologize for that, but this one I will. I don't see anything when I think.
Oh,
and I thought that was just normal. But apparently it's not.
No, I see everything that I think about.
Yeah, I don't see anything. I just see darkness, and like, I can. There's nothing there, but I can still conceptualize something, even though I'm not seeing it when I think. And I just thought that's how everybody thought. Then I was watching fucking TikTok, and someone was talking, and I thought it was gonna be a normal, like, oh yeah, I'm not diagnosed, but this is the medical disorder I have. And then they were explaining it, and I'm like, oh shit! So that's why I have such trouble, like, trying to get down what's in my head down, because I'm not actually seeing it, and everyone else can!
It's crazy, really.
So that sucks! I feel gypped now, because I want to be one of these people that, like, when they imagine something, they can actually see it. It's really bum. I'm missing out. Alright, go ahead, continue.
The driving theatre. Like the deer in the mill, something or someone brought you here. You're soaking wet and your legs hurt. How far have you walked? You cross the ground facing the huge screen among the poles of the drive-in's audio system. Some are crooked, some broken in two, but others still have the speakers plugged in. You even think you can hear static. There he is. Doug. Your friend who died. And now is alive. Doug! Doug takes a few seconds to answer.
Who the fuck are you?
You croak at the top of your lungs.
Jimmy? Jimmy!
All these years. Why, Doug? Why the fuck didn't you tell us anything? Your heartbeat quickens with every step he takes. He doesn't look like the same Doug. Does he? Has he aged?
Jimmy.
No, he hasn't, but he probably looks different because, you know.
Time.
Yeah?
Why?
You really think I didn't try?
Your mum, your friends, me. He just grabbed him by the neck. Have you any idea
Yeah.
how much we suffered because of you? You'd like to tell him about the first year of desperate searching, about the false hope whenever the phone rang, or the grades at school, or the jobs you got kicked out of, or Vietnam, the alcohol, the streets, the hunger. But you don't even know where to start. A shriek freezes your blood. And you start feeling the floor beneath your feet. Let go of me. Yow! Oh, fuck me. One of the broken speaker poles pierces your stomach.
Jimmy, it's my fault. They won't let me.
Doug, I wouldn't forgive myself for being late again. What is happening?
Come here. Let me help you. The reflection of the driving screen makes
Doug's fangs glow.
It'll take just a second, then you'll feel better.
With the last of your strength, you grab Doug by the arm, and you shake your head.
Jimmy, please.
Make him promise you. It's the only option we have.
But listen to me.
No, I am tired. Doug looks away, but he doesn't retract his fangs. You try to smile and try and imitate a toad. Little by little, you feel yourself disappearing. You close your eyes, and you wait for everything else to fade away. What the fuck is going on?
I don't know.
That's the end.
But I do know, obviously there's probably a lot of different endings in this game, but I do know that, well, here's the thing. I can't tell if the vampire is evil, or if the vampire just did that because we, you know, literally grabbed the person that obviously he feels,
Saved him or something.
he seems like, his son, basically. You just picked his son up by the throat. So, I feel like, yeah, you were gonna get thrown across a thing, and it doesn't matter if you ended up dying or not.
Sure.
Well, no, why wouldn't you? Never mind. Are we just gonna leave it at that?
I actually think there's only one ending. I will just double check, but I'm pretty much 100% sure there's only one ending to it.
Okay, so apparently that's the only ending of the game. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty crap ending. I feel like this is the type of game that really needs to have a lot, maybe not a lot of different endings, but at least some different endings. And if it's gonna have the one ending, it needs to be a bit better than that. That was just kind of out of left field.
These are their two other games, by the way. I can't even read that. Bansan Knights and Mothman 1966, which all add to the same universe.
Okay. Not a good ending. That just feels very... It's weird. It almost felt like the story was only half told.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's technically not, because it's the story of a summer. And we did get to the end of the summer. And
we didn't unlock the secret scenes either, but I think you need to complete every minigame.
Okay.
One for each one.
But, yeah, it gave the sensation of, like, overall, there would be at least a bit more, but there wasn't. You just, like, we didn't even see a ending section with Christine, an ending section with the writer. I would have expected that. If Jimmy's was gonna be the last, I feel like we should have had a section with Christine, a section with the writer, and then Jimmy. That ending could have been the last one. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm wondering if I'm wrong, but everything I find indicates that this is only one ending. So yeah.
It just feels weird. It just feels really weird. Yeah, that's not... I mean, there is a question mark, so I guess we are missing some stuff.
There's also... There's another game that's going to follow up from this as well, it sounds like. So it's all part of, like... The idea is they're short, like, pulps, short stories.
Yeah, but I don't care, because it still doesn't feel like an ending to this part of the pulp. I want to feel closure for this end of the pulp. But then again, I've never really been one for pulp fiction, so
Oh, so Banter Knights isn't out yet. That's their newest one that's been announced. This is the second of 3.
Okay.
So Banter Knights is about infiltrating a cult, okay?
Okay, so nothing to do with this.
I don't know. But Mothman 1966 is about the guy who wrote the book.
And the goat.
And the goat guy and all that stuff.
I just don't like it. I'm so sorry. It's not that I don't like it. I actually did enjoy it up until then, but that just felt like...
If you'd like to see the Mothman game, let us know. Because I would be willing to give it more of a chance to see if it fills in.
I'm definitely interested in this universe, and I'm definitely interested in playing more games like this, but... I'm just... It's just... yeah, I just felt like, Well, I said it before. I literally said it before. I feel like, I feel like the way to fix this would have been to do a final with Christine, a final with the author,
It's
and
possible,
then having Jimmy do the end. But
it's possible there's extra stuff in the secret scenes that we don't know about, obviously. But
yeah,
I'm not going to bother doing that.
That is possible.
I didn't really like the minigames, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought they were kind of crap.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the mini games. A lot of them were well, it's not even that they were confusing. Because a lot of them were... I think the only truly confusing one was the fishing game. I think I kind of understand what it was asking for, but it was not very clear. But the actual story I enjoyed. I enjoyed it up until this ending. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like it was a pretty decent visual novel up till the end. There's lots of decisions we didn't see, and lots of outcomes we didn't see that could potentially have other stuff that we didn't quite see. But I feel like if that's the ending...
Can you say C anymore?
C. But if that's the ending, that's kind of disappointing. And I wasn't invested enough for multiple playthroughs, I'll say that. But yeah, I mean, that was Varney Lake. It was alright. What did you think in the comments? Let us know. Would you like to see the Mothman game? It's about the same length. Let us know.
If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't like the video, still leave a like or dislike, whatever. Just interact with the video.
Yeah, leave a comment as well if you can. It really helps us out. Liking and commenting means that a lot more people will see the content. If you want to see us live, there's a Twitch link in the description, as well as links to all our various social medias. Make sure you check those out. There's also a link to our Patreon. At the time of recording, we are 7 patrons away from hitting our goal for the month. Consider going there to support us. It helps unlock exclusive playthroughs that you guys can enjoy over there on any tier.
And it's so numb.
It is very, very, very numb. Another visual novel to check out on screen right now. Go and make sure you watch that, as well as a video that's recommended for you.